You can't do that in a garage. There's just a few places in the world with the right equipment and only a few people in the world with the right training to be able to do that.
There is a moment in every David versus Goliath story where the giant stops swinging and actually listens. Not because it has to. Not because a judge ordered it. But because the little guy has done something so undeniably brilliant, so nakedly honest, that ignoring it becomes more dangerous than acknowledging it. That moment happened in the automotive world not long ago, in a modest workshop somewhere in the English Midlands, and the giant in question was one of the most exclusive, most expensive, and most fiercely guarded automobile manufacturers on the planet, Bugatti. And the man who made them blink. A YouTuber with a wrench, a shop full of second-hand equipment, and an absolute refusal to accept the word impossible. To understand why what happened next was so extraordinary, you first have to understand the world Mat Armstrong walked into. Not just the world of a crashed hypercar sitting in a Miami lot, though that is certainly where the story begins, but the broader world of ultra-luxury automotive culture and the invisible wall that surrounds it. Because what Mat Armstrong did was not simply fix a car. He dismantled an ideology. He took apart, bolt by bolt, the carefully constructed mythology that manufacturers like Bugatti have spent decades and billions of dollars building around their products. And when he was done, the CEO of Bugatti Rimac himself was forced to respond in a way that nobody saw coming. Before we get to Mate Rimac's remarkable response, let us properly set the stage. The vehicle at the center of this story is a Bugatti Chiron Pur Sport, one of only a handful ever produced. This is not merely a rare car in the way a limited edition watch is rare. This is a machine so exclusive that its existence in the world of crashed and salvaged vehicles was, by every official measure, simply not permitted. When this particular Chiron was involved in a collision in Miami, the damage itself was significant but not catastrophic. The front end had absorbed the force of an impact, some structural components were compromised, the engine had shifted fractionally in its bay, and certain cooling lines were crushed. Serious, certainly. But in the real world of engineering, it was the kind of damage that skilled professionals fix every single day. Bugatti's world, however, is not the real world of engineering. It is something else entirely. A curated experience, a brand promise, a philosophy of perfection that does not permit imperfection to exist under its name. And so the factory dispatched a technician, conducted an inspection, and issued its verdict: total loss. More than that, the car was effectively blacklisted. Its vehicle identification number was locked in Bugatti's global system, meaning that no authorized dealership anywhere on Earth could supply so much as a replacement seal or sensor for that specific chassis. The car had been, in the most clinical corporate sense of the word, erased. The repair estimate that accompanied this verdict was the kind of number that reads less like a bill and more like a message. Over $1.5 million just for parts. Individual body panels priced like small apartments. The factory's position was clear: if you want this car back on the road, you will do it our way, you will pay our price, and you will accept our terms. The alternative was a $4 million sculpture of carbon fiber sitting in permanent retirement. This is the wall Mat Armstrong chose to walk straight through. To appreciate what Mat actually proved, you need to understand what he was really arguing against. The unfixable hypercar is not a technical reality. It is a business strategy dressed in the language of engineering. When a manufacturer declares a car beyond repair, they are rarely making a pure mechanical judgment. They are making a brand judgment. They are protecting the resale ecosystem that keeps their vehicles at stratospheric values. They are ensuring that the supply of approved parts remains a monopoly. And they are maintaining the mythology that their products exist in some rarefied dimension of complexity that mere mortals cannot touch. This mythology serves an important function. If you own a Bugatti, part of what you are paying for is the feeling that what you have is utterly unique, incomprehensibly sophisticated, and entirely dependent on the priesthood of factory-trained specialists for its survival. The moment an independent mechanic successfully works on one of these cars, successfully, safely, competently, that mythology takes a hit. The veil slips. The wizard becomes visible behind the curtain. Mat Armstrong pulled the curtain back entirely. Working with his father, a veteran mechanic whose career spans decades of practical, hands-on problem-solving, Mat began approaching the Chiron not as a sacred relic but as a machine. Machines have logic. Machines follow the laws of physics and engineering that apply equally whether you are in a pristine factory in the Alsace region of France or in a workshop with oil on the concrete floor. He began tracing the damage, understanding the architecture of the car, and identifying what was actually broken versus what had simply been declared broken by corporate fiat. What he found was revelatory. Beneath the extraordinary surfaces of the Chiron, beneath the quad-turbocharged W16 engine and the bespoke carbon fiber body, the car was surprisingly, almost democratically, modular. Components shared DNA with other vehicles in the Volkswagen Group family. Part numbers from Audi and Bentley appeared in places where Bugatti's marketing suggested total exclusivity. The structural separation of the car's front and rear sections, which Bugatti had implied required specialized equipment found in only 2 places on Earth, turned out to be a matter of carefully applied mechanical reasoning, good support structures, and steady hands. The moment that became something of a symbol for this entire movement was when Mat used, among his improvised support tools, the base of a workshop trash can to help bear the weight of the W16 engine while he separated the 2 halves of the car. The internet went absolutely wild. Here was the $4 million pinnacle of automotive engineering being calmly split apart using a piece of plastic that cost perhaps $15. It was funny, yes. But it was also deeply instructive. It showed that the 2 facilities in the world claim was not an engineering truth, it was a marketing fence. And Mat had just casually stepped over it. As the build progressed and the videos racked up millions of views, the story escalated beyond a simple repair project. The car's owner issued a public challenge on social media that reframed the entire conflict. The message was essentially this: either the blacklist gets lifted, or the parts get printed. 3-dimensional printing. The owner was threatening to scan, model, and fabricate replacement components using technology that is now broadly accessible to anyone with the right equipment and expertise. This was a threat of a very specific and very modern kind. It was not a legal threat. It was not a financial threat. It was a technological one, aimed at the most vulnerable part of Bugatti's business model, the exclusivity of its components. If a fender or a grille could be accurately replicated at a fraction of the official price, then the enormous markup on genuine Bugatti parts would be exposed for what many suspected it to be, not a reflection of unique manufacturing costs, but a product of controlled scarcity. To be clear, the engineering reality here is more nuanced than the social media drama suggested. Mate Rimac would later make this point quite forcefully. A car that generates over 1,000 horsepower and travels at speeds approaching 300 kilometers per hour subjects its structural components to forces that consumer-grade printing materials simply cannot handle safely. This is not corporate spin, it is basic material science. A printed grille might look identical to the original. A printed engine mount bracket in a load-bearing application at those speeds is a different matter entirely. But the threat was never really about the physics of 3D printing. It was about leverage. It was about making Bugatti understand that the world had changed, that technology had given individuals the tools to at least challenge the monopoly on knowledge and parts that manufacturers had always taken for granted. It was the right to repair movement arriving at the very summit of the automotive pyramid. And somebody in Croatia was watching very carefully. Mate Rimac is not a conventional automotive executive. This is a man who, as a teenager, converted an old BMW into an electric drag racer in his parents' garage because he wanted to prove something. He built his empire not through inheritance or institutional backing but through engineering brilliance and an almost reckless belief in what he could make happen. By the time he became CEO of Bugatti Rimac, he had already demonstrated that he understood the world of the garage builder from the inside, not as a romantic observer but as a genuine participant. When the ultimatum hit social media and the Mat Armstrong story exploded into mainstream automotive conversation, Rimac did not reach for the phone to call the legal department. He reached for his own phone, opened Instagram, and messaged the car's owner directly. The opening of that message, reportedly something along the lines of, "Hey, Bugatti CEO here," was disarmingly casual for someone in his position. But the tone was entirely consistent with who Rimac actually is. The conversation that followed was substantive. Rimac acknowledged the 3D printing concerns from an engineering and safety perspective, explaining without condescension why certain structural components needed to meet standards that home fabrication could not currently guarantee. But then he did something that stunned the industry. He admitted that the figures that had been circulating, the catastrophic repair estimates, were based on worst-case insurance scenarios, not on the actual cost of fixing the car. He signaled that Bugatti wanted to help, not obstruct. And then the blacklist was lifted. This was not a minor policy adjustment. This was a reversal of the foundational logic that Bugatti had applied to written-off vehicles for decades. By removing the VIN lock, Rimac was acknowledging something profound, that the total loss designation should not be a permanent death sentence for a vehicle when a viable, safe repair path exists. He was, in effect, recognizing that ownership means something, that when a person buys one of the rarest and most expensive cars ever built, they retain a meaningful right to determine what happens to it. Rimac then went further. He made a public video addressing the entire situation, engaging directly with the content Mat had produced. He was measured, knowledgeable, and notably respectful. He did not mock the trash can. He did not dismiss the independent repair as foolhardy. He corrected some of the more inflated part prices that had been circulating online. The actual cost of certain components was still eye-watering by any normal standard, but significantly less than the viral numbers suggested. And he offered to work with the car's owner and with Mat to find a cost-effective path to completion that met Bugatti's engineering and safety standards. It was a masterclass in how a modern brand leader handles a crisis that is also an opportunity. By choosing engagement over litigation, by treating Mat Armstrong as a collaborator rather than an adversary, Rimac accomplished several things simultaneously. He reclaimed the narrative. He demonstrated genuine technical credibility. He positioned Bugatti not as a corporate monolith allergic to independent thought, but as a brand that respects engineering excellence wherever it comes from. And he made it very difficult for anyone to cast Bugatti as the villain in a story that, for a while, had been heading in exactly that direction. Step back from the drama and the personalities for a moment and look at what the Mat Armstrong project actually established as a matter of fact. First, that the Chiron, despite its extraordinary complexity and performance, is fundamentally a modular machine whose component systems can be understood, accessed, and worked on by skilled individuals outside the factory. Second, that the Volkswagen Group part-sharing architecture that underpins the Bugatti, the sensors, clips, connectors, and supporting mechanical components borrowed from Audi, Bentley, and other marques, means that not every aspect of ownership requires a trip back to Molsheim. Third, that modern manufacturing technology, including CNC machining and precision scanning, has genuinely closed the gap between what a well-equipped independent workshop can achieve and what a factory can achieve. None of this diminishes what Bugatti does. The engine itself, the carbon monocoque, the aerodynamic development, the calibration and integration of systems at those performance levels. These remain achievements of an extraordinary order that require extraordinary resources and expertise to create. But the mystique that every single aspect of ownership, every minor repair, every parts replacement must pass through the factory's hands? That mystique is gone. Mat Armstrong did not just fix a car. He performed an audit on the hypercar industry's most profitable assumptions and published the results to an audience of tens of millions.